I love the outdoors. I love to get out camping, going to the beach, going to our national parks, and just being with my family in those places. I have an 11-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old son, and my husband, and we have a camper that we go out all the time in recreational fun boating and fishing. We also are really keen in water skiing and tubing with the kids, so often we'll scoot out to a Wonga Dam on the afternoon for a bit of a ski and tube. Gladstone region is really awesome because there's a wide range in choice of options, but it's also balanced with lots of job opportunities and development opportunities. I love working at Gladstone Regional Council. I love that we help the community and we shape the services we give to the community. I'm proud of all the people I work alongside, and it's everyone showing up every single day to do a really good job for our community. And that's what makes me most proud, is that we all want to make this a better place. So it's all about making sure that we're working on the improvements as...
Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday the 15th of October 2024. I call for apologies, all are present, so no apologies. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is messages of condolence. Any messages of condolence this morning? No, then the next item on the agenda is prior notifications of conflicts of interest, and I'll hand over to Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I, Leanne Patrick, declare that I have a declarable conflict of interest in agenda item G 4.1, signature event applications, community investment program, as my husband's business, McDonald's Boyne Island and McDonald's Kirkwood, are a significant sponsor of the Boyne Tandem hookup. I wish to leave the room for the discussion of the voting on agenda item G 4.1.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Any further conflicts of interest? No. Then the next item on the agenda is the Mayor's statement on current issues, and I'll start with our community forum in Mount Larkham on Tuesday the 1st of October, which obviously followed the general meeting as well, which was fantastic to see our community forums happening around the region again, and I'll talk more about some of those coming up soon. Then we launched our Seniors Month at the Calliope Historical Village with the Hope Cafe on Wednesday the 2nd of October. And then the Major Engineering Alliance Conference on the 2nd and 3rd of October, of course, at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre, always speaking all good things about what's happening in the Gladstone region. On Saturday the 5th of October was the second annual Sand Sculpture Contest at Tennant Beach, and thank you, Councillor Patrick, Muscat and McClintock for attending that. And on Tuesday, the 8th of October, we had the Director General from the Department of Tourism and Sport, Andrew Hooper, visiting Gladstone Speedway, Marley Brown Oval, and other sites around the city and region. And Councillor Davis, thank you for attending that, along with a number of GRC officers. And of course, Saturday the 12th of October, we had the men's shed opening of their new building, which is fantastic to see. And thank you, Councillor Goodluck and Councillor Muscat. Such a fantastic facility in Gladstone. It's great to see that new facility open now. And then we had the Agnes Water Community Forum, and a number of councillors and officers attended that one as well. Upcoming today, we have the Mayor's Morning Melodies happening at the Entertainment Convention Centre. And depending on how the council meeting is going, we'll potentially be adjourning the council meeting so councillors can attend that event at the Entertainment Centre. Tomorrow we have the Miriam Vale Community Forum being held at the Community Centre, which we visited just recently, and great to see the new air conditioning and all the refurbishment there of the amazing building there, which was raised originally by members of the community. The funds were raised by the local community members, including Pam Corthwaite and many others. I won't name them all because I'll get in trouble, but they raised the funds to build that facility. It's great to see we got a grant to be able to upgrade it as well. So that's happening from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. Wednesday the 16th of October at the Miriam Vale Community Centre. The Gem Club in Gladstone is celebrating their 60th birthday, and that's this Saturday on the 19th of October. I'll be attending that. And we have, of course, the Martin Hanson Memorial Art Awards, and they'll be happening at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre. I know a number of councillors will be attending that as well. And then the World 1 Metre International Championships for sailing will be happening in Gladstone as well, and that's from the 20th to the 28th of October, where we will have visitors from right around the world competing in the 1 metre championships here in Gladstone. I'll find out more through Council's website for that. And then the Lake Wonga Adventure Race is happening on Saturday the 26th of October. Councillor McClintock, put that in your diary. And there's more information and details can be found on Council's website as well. And finally, of course, our Australia Day award nominations are now open, and they're closing on Friday the 8th of November. So if you know a local community champion, please make sure you nominate the local community champions for our Australia Day Awards, which are of course held at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre on 25th of January, ahead of our Australia Day celebrations on the 26th. And it would be remiss of me not to mention that Brodie Kostecki won Bathurst on the weekend, followed by Red Bull second and third. And I know someone who got the trifecta. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the confirmation of the minutes, G2.1, for the general meeting of the 1st of October. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Seconded, Councillor Holzheimer. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. We have no deputations this morning, so we'll move on to our officers' reports. And our first officers' report is Signature Event Applications Community Investment Program, and I'll hand over to the Acting General Manager of Community and Lifestyle, Bri Jansen. Thank you, Bri. Thank you, yes. Goodbye, Councillor Patrick, who declared a conflict earlier.
Good morning, councillors. I'm joined this morning by Community Investment Officer Libby Cattermole as we present the Community Investment Program recommendations for the Signature Event category. Applications for the Signature Event category are called for once per year under an expression of interest process. This allows council to negotiate the level of financial and in-kind support that aligns to the fund objectives and achieves the most equitable outcomes for the community. Applicants are invited to apply for over $50,000 with no upper limit. Under the Signature Event category, events must attract over 25% out of region visitor attendance. Applications for the Signature Event Fund have been assessed by a group of 3 senior council employees from different areas of the business. The panel then underwent a moderation process in accordance with the CIP policy. For the 24-25 Signature Event round, 3 applications were received. The panel has recommended multi-year funding agreements for all 3 events. I welcome any questions.
I like the multi-year approach. Thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Bri. I like the multi-year funding agreements as well, and I know that this process started prior to, 2 or 3 weeks ago when we've been discussing the review of our Community Investment Fund policy. I just wanted to highlight, would it be, I'm assuming there's lots of work that's gone into the multi-year funding agreements approach. Would it be beneficial for us to just sign a 1-year deal rather than the multi-year approach on this occasion, just because we're about to review the policy. I'm not too worried either way. I guess I just want some feedback from Bri around the level of work that's gone into the multi-year approach. I'm sure you'll tell me there's been lots, and I'd be comfortable with that. But otherwise, I do. Part of me has a bit of an issue with signing a multi-year funding agreement when we're within the next 12 months we'll have a reviewed policy that might change. It may not, but it might change some of those outcomes. It may or may not be more beneficial for the proponents as well, depending on the outcome of that review. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thanks for the question, Councillor. There has been some additional work put in by the applicants, obviously, to prepare that 3-year proposal and have that forward-looking aspect as to what their funding needs will be and what their sustainability is with their events moving forward. So there has been some additional effort put in by our applicants. The effort by our council team would now be in outworking what those agreements look like, which obviously will come after today's decision.
Councillor Wagner.
Am I able to do an amendment to the motion?
Well, we haven't got a motion yet, but you can move any motion you like.
I'm just wondering, I agree with what you said, and I think I love the idea. Sorry, I think it's great that we've got these long-term agreements, and I think we all agree that that's the way to go. But given that we are doing it, is there any way where we can sort of do a in principle for the other 2 years? No? So we could do an amendment to say they've done the work. That's a hard one.
There's no motion at the moment, so there's no need to worry about amendments. If you wanted to amend the officer's recommendation, you don't need to. You just put your own motion. You just don't move the officer's recommendation. But
Okay, let me think about that for a minute.
Will do. Councillor Churchill.
I'm not asking any questions. I'm happy to move the motion or the officer's recommendation. I understand where Councillor Goodluck's coming from, but we've come a long way to get where we are today with these multi-year agreements. And I remember the previous resolution of a previous meeting when I spoke here about the need for a high priority review of the policy at the last meeting. And then there was this general sentiment that there was no need to rush the review of the policy. So, and I understand that now, we've had that discussion and debate. And then there was a general consensus that we needed to get it right, which could take 12 months. And I'm just going back again on the basis that our best endeavours have been from the previous council in compliance with the policy was to get a multi-year agreement in place for these significant events to give them long-term substantial financial sustainability. So I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation and go into a debate, and if there's a need for an amendment that says in principle or whatever the case might be. But I certainly would not like to hold up these 3 signature events and those organisations from getting an understanding that they can develop a longer term plan for the delivery of those major events over the next 3+ years.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Churchill. I had some questions as well, but so did Councillor Holzheimer, but now I need a seconder for that. Is someone prepared to second that? Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer, and your question.
I'm happy to, I know, I actually agree in part with what Councillor Goodluck is saying. However, I don't believe that the concerns that have been raised through previous grants are related to our signature events. I think that they are actually 2 different issues as well in regards to what the concerns were around the funding and the process that was being followed as well. I think our signature events are actually separate to that. So I'm happy to second Councillor Churchill's motion.
Thank you. Councillor Goodluck, then Councillor Davis, then McClintock.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and valid points. I just, you know, there would have been no possible way we could have reviewed the policy between 2 weeks ago and now, irrespective of that. I do agree with Councillor Churchill's point on the signature events, but then the issue I've got is the next item on the agenda is the impact events, which also has multi-year funding agreements in place. So if we were going to do the multi-year agreements for the signature ones, I'd suggest we'd probably have to do that for the impact funds as well. And then let's say in the next 6 months or however long it might take to review the policy, we've got a substantial proportion of our community investment funds that are locked into multi-year agreements under a policy that will be outdated. We have an opportunity, so I absolutely support the officer's recommendations for this year, and I do support the multi-year agreements as well. Probably 6 months ago, I didn't anticipate that we would be doing a fairly comprehensive review of our community investment fund policy. And I do have concerns around entering into several multi-year agreements, probably for the majority of the big, large events across our community, that 2/3 of those agreements will be funded under a policy that's no longer in place. It's not the end of the world, but if we're going to do a comprehensive review of a policy in the next 12 months, we've got 6 or 7 events here that we're going to fund for 3 years, which is 2 years past that new policy date. Now, that's not to say that, you know, a review of the policy, we don't know what that's going to look like. I'm also conscious of the fact that the policy may, once it's reviewed, the new policy may actually give greater opportunity for some of these community organisations and community events to actually get a better outcome, or it might not. We don't know where that's going to land, but so I guess there's risk either way. I want to acknowledge the effort that the proponents have gone to do that extra work to try and get that multi-year deals across the line. Were it not for the fact that we were looking at doing a comprehensive review, I'd be more than happy to support the recommendation today. I really don't see the point in doing, I think there's 7 major community events, 3-year multi-deals for a policy that we're going to change in the next 6 to 12 months. That sort of seems a little bit not right to me. I'm happy to come on the journey though. I just wanted to raise those concerns.
Would you like me to drive? Councillor, Bry has some comment before I go to Councillor Davis.
If I can just add one item in there for consideration. So the 3-year approach was adopted for all of our significant events, which is signature, destination and impact. Now you'll remember approximately a month ago we did actually bring the destination events through, and we did endorse a 3-year agreement for the 1770 Festival. So that's the second tier of our most significant events, and because that round was ready to bring earlier, then we had today's signature and impact. So we have already endorsed a 3-year agreement, just putting that out there for your consideration.
So that was only for the one event?
One event, 1770 Festival.
Can I come back? I've got Councillor Davis first and then a few more. Anyone in queue?
Thank you. I do tend to agree with Councillor Goodluck and Councillor Holzheimer, but that aside, my query is in relation to the Gladstone Harbour Festival. I know that the score there is only for partial funding, but then so was the Queensland Cruising Yacht Club, and then that was recommended for full funding. I mean, those two events are hand in hand. If you don't have one, really don't have the other, in my view. So I really would like to see us fully fund the Harbour Festival. So that's my take.
Do you want to answer that, or can I come back to you? No, you come back. Okay, cool. Councillor McClintock, then Muscat.
Yep. Trying to figure out where my question/comment goes in far as a review and this existing situation, but I guess just looking at particularly our signature before we move on to the next ones, can you give me a little bit of insight perhaps into the diversity of applications that in the past, obviously we've got 3 here today, how do we it's a massive commitment to put on an event like this, and it's not something that people are coming out of the woodwork to just throw their hand at. I totally understand that. But what are perhaps some of the ways that we have helped other people know that this exists? Or we have it on our website, that's one place, but what is the work that's going into making sure that we're getting a broad range of people into these? I'm just, off the back of what Councillor Goodluck has said, concerned that if someone comes along in the next 12 months, we've now written ourselves off for a few years. If someone has a great significant event that they want to put on, are we blocking ourselves out of funding? Like, what are we doing to ourselves here as far as future applicants and diversity?
Thanks, Councillor. So yes, we do a fairly diverse spread to ensure everyone has had opportunity to put an application in. As you said, these sort of events aren't the sort of events that are being put on within the space of a year. So what we've done is we have had it on our website, our social media, and we've also reached out via our mailing list, which has anyone who's ever applied for any sort of funding or expressed any interest, attended a community investment program workshop before. We've then, in addition, we've actually gone to the step of actually ringing around any previous applicants who we hadn't seen applications coming in from, just to make sure that they actually had that opportunity to apply. There is opportunity within the existing policy to accept an extraordinary application. So that doesn't necessarily rule out if someone was to come to us and say, look, I want to do an event in 2 years' time, council could choose to accept that application. I believe that one comes down to general manager endorsement to actually accept an out-of-round application. There would be a budget consideration, obviously. Our budget is sitting fairly close to expended at this point in time, but that would be an option that we could bring to the boardroom.
Thank you very much. It gives you a little bit of confidence on that one there. The other one was more based around the quantity. Obviously, we're not talking about small amounts here, and we're also talking about good return on investment as far as community investment, the accommodation, all those sorts of things. So understanding that when we're talking about these funds and giving this amount of money, that we're actually looking at investing it into the broader community, not just these events. That said, I would like to see just, and this is probably perhaps even to any one of those three that are listening, as well as to us, I guess, on our side of the fence. It's a little bit frustrating when we're looking at giving significant amounts of money and then someone can come along for a couple of $1,000s and become naming rights for an event, and we're a little logo on the bottom corner of something down the side. I want to make sure that our community understands that we are investing into these things and that this is not something that we are taking lightly, and it's not something that we're throwing around with their funding. I want to make sure that our community is able to understand that and see that through the way that it's advertised through. And I know there's parts of that in the policy, and I have seen that done, but more so from the little bit of a irk of mine when there's a naming sponsor comes on board and we've got really great opportunities for sponsorship, that somehow we can encourage others to donate more so that they can become naming sponsors, not so much that we become the signature donor, only to be a byline on the bottom of a postcard somewhere. So that was more of a comment than a question, but thank you, Bri, for the answer.
No, thank you. And I can certainly assure you that that has been part of the conversation from the panel as they were assessing the community and council value as well.
Yep. Thank you.
Councillor Muscat, then Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions. Well, one is, I guess, if you can give us a little bit of assurance around the acquittal process in between the years, and which is, I guess, just for, I know you would be doing that, but that it's another way of, I guess, minimising the risk in anything going wrong throughout the 3 years of funding. So, and I guess that's what's going to assure us that, things are happening in between. The other one, if you don't mind me just saying it now before you answer the other one, I have, looking at the amounts requested, at the amounts recommended, and also looking at the cost of the overall cost of the events. We have two events here that the total project costs come to just about $500,000, and the other one, it's only about 150. So for what I can see here. So the Queensland Cruising Yacht Club, the Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Race, it's we are paying for a third of the cost, while in the other instances it's a lot less. So I wanted to understand why, in a way, I know we're just responding to what they requested, and that's I understand that, but the Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Race, we are recommending more than what they're actually requesting. And I understand it's to account for CPI increases and those things, but we're not applying the same to the others. In fact, we're giving them less. So I'm just curious as to how we are applying our logic to this when we are. And also, I'm just kind of wondering about the Boeing-Turnham hookup when we giving them just over half of what they're asking, even throughout the 3 years. And then another event, we're giving them more than what they're asking. If you can please let us know how that came about.
So I'll start with the acquittal process, if you
Yes,
don't mind.
thank you.
So yes, the recommendation is subject to a successful acquittal each year, and I'll actually hand over to Libby to provide some more details on what that acquittal process looks like.
I think I'd actually mentioned it in the previous council meeting, but absolutely, everybody goes through the acquittal process. These particular applicants previously have provided very clear and accurate acquittals. We never have any issues with them. I think the only one there's been a change in the committee members for the yacht club, but they've embraced the ways that we actually do things, so they've come up to speed really quickly, so I don't see any problems with the acquittals coming from these applicants.
Thanks,
Thank
Libby.
you.
In terms of the second part of your question, and there's multiple bits to that, but I'll do my best to respond to that. So while the percentage of the overall cost of the event is considered by the panel, it's not, I guess, the only item that is considered. The panel actually looks at what the return is for council and community, whether the events are ticketed, what other opportunities they actually have to raise revenue and all of those sorts of things. So the percentage that is recommended has been based on what the panel thought was community value, to go back. In some instances, CPI has been added on to the requested amount, even though the applicant may not have asked for it. Now, the reason that approach was taken was because a couple of the applicants had actually asked for increasing amounts year on year, but their justification was purely just CPI or cost of living. Those percentages were higher in the 10 to 15%, and so the panel actually discussed that they thought if the only reason they were asking for more money was to account for CPI, that a 3.5% across the board would be most appropriate. The panel then looked at, well, if we were applying it to those ones, we may as well actually apply that 3.5 across all applications, and the only exception, I believe, where that hasn't been applied was one application where reduced funding was actually asked for year on year because the applicant was putting in certain measures to allow themselves to become more sustainable and actually recognised that they would request less money. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, I still, I mean, I guess I'm not the one assessing, but the Gladstone Festival and events, it's getting less than what they asked, and we're not accounting for anything. So, and I definitely see a lot of return on investment, and especially something that is our biggest event, and that does not have ticketed opportunities, and it's also an event that is delivered and benefits a wide range of people, from low socioeconomic families to all the other way to the other end. Well, I don't necessarily see the same in the Queensland, in the Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Club race. I know we love it, but I just don't understand how we are giving them more money than what they asked, and at the same time not giving the Gladstone festivals and events the money that they're asking.
If I could just respond to that, so the only reason that the value is less is because it has been capped at that 3.5% CPI, we'll call it, rather than the approximately 10 to 12% that they'd requested. So it is less than they'd requested, but there was no actual other increase or events or initiatives that they proposed to put on for that increase in funding request. It was purely to account for cost of living.
So, and we decided to give the Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Club more just out of our own thinking, or? But they did request 55, which is added the CPI out of our own initiative.
I think from my perspective, if I can, we've tried to take a consistent approach with the CPI. So we've applied the same CPI increase across both applications, even though one asked for it and one didn't. Both of them have got the same as far as CPI increase.
Done. I didn't know we'll give people more money than what they requested. At the same time, less money to others. Anyway, I just find that a bit uncomfortable considering how much reach the festival has in comparison to, locally especially, in comparison to the yacht race.
I thought I heard Councillor Wagner, then I'll throw to Carly.
Yeah, thanks for that. All really great points. And just a couple here, probably adding to what Councillor McClintock was talking about too. Where we've got naming rights, and I'll be quite honest, we've got one called the Uralla Harbour Festival, and I'm curious as to, what sort of contribution they would be making to get the naming rights when we are going to provide the equivalent of about 160,000 or whatever to that. And it's not really about it's great that we get recognition for it, but the Harbour Festival is a Gladstone Harbour Festival. So I suppose as a long-term resident, I'm curious as to how that has come about. We have a long history with that organisation. At one point, we funded it with a contract to actually support that organisation continue. We've provided support via sponsorship of their insurances when quite a few years ago when it looked like it might have to close. This is our main festival, and I'm really happy to be supporting that one there. And likewise, the Brisbane to Gladstone, it's iconic as well. So I think that's great. With that said, I am still concerned about, and Councillor Goodluck alluded or suggested this as well, and rightly so, we actually may be, by making a 3-year decision, preventing them from getting more. It's not about the less. I think the intent is right in that we do the 3-year, and I do understand that those organisations have gone to great lengths, but that shouldn't stop them from putting in for future years. I would like to put an alternative motion. Is that possible now or not?
Before it was, depends. You can amend a motion depending on how much the amendment is, and Tanya will grab me if I get it too far wrong. An amendment, like Councillor Davis was suggesting, potentially funding the Harbour Festival completely could be considered an amendment. But if you're talking about only 1 year, could that still be an amendment?
I believe that is probably not an amendment, that would be an alternative motion, which would need to be put after.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And I'm just wondering too, looking at the figures here, and I'm obviously missing something. For the first year, we are funding what they requested. That's right, isn't it? 65 and 95 for Harbour Festival. It's only in the subsequent years that that amount has gone down. So I think by doing the 3 years too, we may be cutting them off at the knees, to be honest. So I suppose that motion has to go forward, but I'd still like to see it go to 1 year. The intent is that we support them. They're our events. I would like to see some resolution of the naming of the Gladstone Harbour Festival, because I think we probably need to have a good profile across that. This is Gladstone, and we represent Gladstone. Thank you.
Okay, Carly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to add 2 items. Thank you. Just wanted to add 2 items for your consideration, I guess, and a little bit of clarity. I understand the concern around the reduced funding, and I just wanted to clarify, in in recent times, we believe the intent has been that if you want to ask for more funding, you need to show what additional you're going to do with it. There's additional marketing you want to do because you want to attract different people, or you've got a new approach that you want to have increased overnight stays, and so therefore we would justify that increase. So anything over a CPI, we would generally be saying, what is the difference? I think that's what Libby and Bri were explaining, that with those applications, we just saw it relevant to add the 3.5. Mind you, you can obviously make whatever decision you like, but just sharing that in that content. And also with the 3 year versus 1 year, there could be an option if you do decide to go into a 3 year agreement and then we make some changes to the program. If those changes were more beneficial for these applicants, then I'm sure that they would be open to us reviewing their agreements and renewing their agreements. So I don't think it would stop you re-entering into new agreements if there was something more beneficial for them. That's just for your consideration.
Yeah, that's worth thinking about. We've got a motion on the books. We'll put it shortly, but I've got. You want to comment more? Let me have a go, and then I'll come back to you. Sorry, you go. Well, I just actually have a different opinion, particularly on Harbour Festival. And I just might as well say I don't mind them being called Urella Harbour Festival because I know that they needed that extra sponsor. And I also don't mind that they've asked, they say it's for Saturday night and it's called Gladstone Regional Council's Sensational Saturday Night. And it is a sensational Saturday, but I couldn't care less if it's named Gladstone Regional Council Sensational Saturday Night, because if they can make it Santos Saturday night or Fortescue Saturday night and they can get extra funding in addition to ours, then that keeps the event more sustainable for the community. So I actually would quite happy for us to invest at least what they've asked for, but maybe at least what you've recommended, with the option for them to come back for more and give up our Saturday night and let them find a sponsor for it, because we don't need it. We don't need to, we can go open the event, we can all be there for all the events that they have, but we don't necessarily have to be the ones who claim the fame on the Saturday night. Let them get another sponsor. We've got so many major industries in town, and especially some new ones. If you're listening, Alpha HPA, maybe, that might be the sponsor for Saturday night. Or Acciona. These are new companies that are investing in Gladstone. Let's get them Saturday night. We can use ratepayer funds to keep the event going and sustainable, and they can get industry funds to make the event thrive and survive and do exciting new things. That's my thoughts on Harbour Festival. But, Councillor, good luck. Did you have anything to add?
I was just going to propose an alternate motion. I'm not sure if you have to put the initial motion first, but
depends how alternate it is, but we'll see.
The way I'm looking at these 3 signature events, the first year of each of the funding agreements, we're giving what was requested, so I don't think any of the proponents are going to have an issue with the first year, with the exception of the Boy and Tanham hookup. But it's been assessed and granted on that basis. Every one of these proponents in the second and third years are either not getting what they want, or as Councillor Muscat, Cruising Yacht Club is getting the CPI increase. So to be honest, I don't think that they'd probably be too perturbed about us re-looking at a multi-year agreement next year once we've reviewed the policy. So I could be very wrong, but that's what the assumptions I'm going to make looking at the information in front of me, and on that basis I'm going to propose that we just sign the 1 year deal in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. You can foreshadow that, but you can't propose it.
Well, foreshadow whatever the semantics are, that's fine, however you need to run it, Mr Mayor. And then I think in the next 12 months we'll have a new policy which the proponents will be able to reapply for, and that way we'll have hopefully a 3 year multi-year funding agreement that's in line with the current policy that will be reviewed in the near future.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill, did you want to comment? And then I might wrap it up.
No, thanks for that, Mayor Matt. Look, I understand. I'm listening to everybody's insight and helping, I suppose, in this decision-making and in good governance, making an informed decision. And I just reflect from a good governance perspective at this stage is that the applicants have made the application under the current policy. This policy is probably the one that's been The community investment program policy has probably been the one that's been reviewed the most, or has probably been under the most intense deliberations and considerations, not only from in this boardroom, but externally as well. And in light of going back to which the minutes we've just adopted in G 4.1 from the last meeting at Mount Larkham, and contrary to Councillor Davis's endeavours now to perhaps, which I'd support, increasing some funding for the Gladstone Harbour Festival, is that dot point 3, and I was the mover of the motion, and as a reminder, Councillor Goodluck was a supportive seconder of that motion, was that in dot point 3 in the minutes, it said that we needed to undertake a review of the policy as a priority. And I had put forth that we would do that within 2 weeks, and you would remember the debate. And then that went from 2 weeks to the 16th of December this year to allow us as an organisation and the proponents of these major events and minor events as well to have a greater understanding of that policy. I'm just simply saying at this stage that if we wait another 12 months to review that policy or within the policy, we're going to be in the same position we are today. So nothing has changed. And again, I'm not defining what the determination or the definition of priority is, but sooner is better than later. I'm not opposed to perhaps Councillor Goodluck foreshadowing that it's a 1 year because we don't know what the next policy is going to be. But I'm going to reiterate again that these applicants, these proponents that are organising these major events throughout our region are being guided by the policy that we currently have at the moment because that's good governance and that's what they're dealing with because they are in compliance with our current policy.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Before I throw to Councillor Holzheimer, who is the seconder, to wrap up, I will be supporting your motion. I think that...
Sorry, Mr Mayor, can I just make just one other minor point, is that perhaps through a good governance process, if the policy is to be amended in any way, shape or form that may have an impact or a benefit on these ones that we're dealing with, another one is the next agenda item as well. If there to be that, then appropriately, surely there is an administrative process that would allow those organisations to have a greater understanding that they've been benefited, hopefully, as a result of the review of that policy. And they'd probably welcome that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that's what Carly was saying earlier. Yeah, I will be supporting your recommendation. I think at the last meeting we said that we put a policy out there. People have applied based on the guidelines of the policy. Yes, we're reviewing it. God knows how many times we reviewed it. So, and there's no guarantee it's going to change. Just because there's a number of councillors in the room that would like to review it, and we all agreed to review it, doesn't mean we're going to agree to change it. So I can foreshadow that we may not change the thing. And then we've asked these community groups to put an application in for 3 years, which they've done, and they've been assessed by our officers. I would, again, be happy to give Harbour Festival extra funding that they requested, but I'm also happy to support the recommendation as it stands because they got 3 years guaranteed funding for those volunteers of all 3 organisations, and all three are run by volunteers, so that they can move forward. Councillor Holzheimer, well, his motion is foreshadowed, and it can't be put until after yours is. But do you? Sorry, I was going to go to Councillor Holzheimer. Would you like to have the final say after her?
No, I just wanted to, if that was possible, because I do support the recommendation as well. Like I understand, what we're doing, and I am uncomfortable with the with giving more money than requested to one of the applicants, and I also would like to, because we don't, cost of living, CPI, we don't know. That's just also telling, we don't have a crystal ball or anything like that. So, and I will like to bring the Gladstone Festival and events to, well, at least to where it is, or if not, for us to consider the full requested amount.
Okay, well, I was just about to put that, but so that is an amendment. that would be classed as an amendment because it's not strategically changing the recommendation, because the recommendation was for 3 years.
Yeah, we probably would just need to record a reason for that if that was the resolution, just given that it is, the officer's recommendation is consistent with policy, and that would be just a change.
Would you like to move that?
Yes, please. I don't know if they're giving more money to more than the money requested is within policy. I mean, I like to. That was just, where is it? Is it in the policy somewhere that we add CPI to amounts that we give out? I think
The legislation requires that where you move a motion against an officer's recommendation that's consistent with policy, we just
Okay.
need to record the reasons for that.
Okay, my reasons are that the Gladstone, Brisbane to Gladstone, the one for the sailing club, it's approved for the amount requested as per their request. And the other one is to, because they rate highly in the assessment, that we agreed to give them the amount requested over the 3 years.
You're talking about Gladstone Harbour Festival?
Yes,
And
thank you.
Councillor Davis, you happy to second that as an amendment?
Yes, I'm happy to second that, thank you.
Tanya, you're happy to accept that? I am. You agree with me that that would be an amendment? I think it's not too far away from the original motion. Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just making a point, perhaps a suggestion, the reason we might want to support the Gladstone Harbour Festival is because they're arguably the biggest signature community event, rather than because of what they've requested, because if we look at the Boyne-Tannum hookup, we haven't given them what they've requested. That might be a more appropriate reasoning. It's one that I'm sure we'd all agree with.
Yep.
And I just wanted to point out that, even in the debate last meeting around the policy issues, it was never my intent not to support the 1 year funding which the applicants had applied for under the current policy, and it's not my intent to change that today either. The issue I do have is with the future years, not this year. And as far as guaranteeing them funding, I don't think there's ever been a year where council hasn't provided funding to these signature community events, certainly not in the last 9 years that I've been here, and I'd argue probably not for a long time before that either. And I don't think there's any risk that council would decide not to fund these community events next year or the year after as well. The reason we do it is because it supports our community. People love them, brings people together, brings in economic benefit as well through the money that's spent. So they were just a couple of points, but we'll see where your motions go.
But if you, I'm going to leave Councillor Holzheimer to have the last say, and then I'm going to put the amendment.
Thanks. What would it look like from your recommendation or what you talked about, Carly, if we were to actually approve the 3 years? However, we could make those changes if it was in their better interest, that administration kind of review as well. Because, I understand what Councillor Goodluck is saying, and everybody's saying around the room as well. However, if we do approve the 3 years, for example, how do we actually go back to make those changes if it's in their best interest, that administration process?
Yeah, I think that's something that we would decide at the workshop, where we're actually assessing if there are any changes to the policy, and then we can have a look at if it changes, what is the boardroom's intent on agreements already entered into. And once we have your direction on that, we can outwork anything operationally. It wouldn't be my intent to ask them to reapply and do that work again, but that would be your decision.
Okay, thank you. We've had enough debate on conversations and questions on this. We have an amendment moved by Councillor Muscat and Councillor Davis, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it would read that we accept the officer's recommendation with the reduction of QCYC's funding to what they requested of $55,000, and increase the Gladstone Harbour Festival's funding to what they also requested.
So just to confirm, we're reducing the
QCYC to their requested amount of $55,000 each year, and increasing the Harbour Festival, Gladstone Festivals and Events to what they requested. Would that be your recommendation? Thank you, and seconded. Okay, and no further comments or debate. I'm going to put the amendment before it becomes a motion, if it's passed. All in favour of the amendment? The amendment is now the motion. I don't need another mover or seconder. No, I'm going to put the motion now, as per on the screen. All in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you, councillors. And we are now going to adjourn the meeting so we can go to the Mayor's Seniors Morning Tea, which is at Morning Melodies at the Entertainment Centre. Can I have a mover that we adjourn the meeting, please? Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Second, Councillor Goodluck. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. We'll adjourn.